Okay, guys, this is section 1.7. The title of the section is Keeping the Lid on Semantics. Given a statement, so section 1.7 is about how do we deal with the semantics of language, because sometimes our semantics or the meaning of certain terms or sentences commit us to the existence of certain things in the world, or the non-linguistic world. Like, for example, if I say that there's a cat, the word cat reference the object cat, and that if I say something about the property of a cat, let's say my cat is fluffy, right? That sentence is mapped to maybe the properties of a cat, the fluffiness of a cat in the real world. So all words or sentences have some sort of reference or some sort of reality in the non-linguistic world or in the world. Okay, so that's my little summary of it. But let's continue with this little coverage of this section. Consider this following: given a statement P, why is P true? So this is a very kind of normal way. We first have a statement, what is P, and then we notice that P is true, so we can ask, well, why is P true? And then the second order question would be, well, it's true because there is a truth maker, TP, that makes P true, right? So for every statement P, there is a corresponding truth maker, TP, that makes P true. Oh, so for example, take the example, water is H2O, right? And we know that water is H2O is true. And we can ask, well, why is water is H2O true? Well, the answer is that water is the truth maker that makes a statement true. So maybe you can say that there is something about the essence of water, where the essence of water encapsulate that water has to be made up of two hydrogen and one oxygen atom. So the truth maker that makes this statement true is water itself, or namely the essence of water, the microphysical structure of water, namely its atomic structure that is composed of two hydrogen and one oxygen. It is that non-linguistic reality that makes this linguistic statement true. That's how this truth maker theory work, right? Which the author is trying to move away from, right? So the author is really a advocate of this weak way of semantics, or this semantic way, the weak way to do semantics, where we don't try to make that jump from why is the statement true, or what, from a statement being true to why is the statement true, to postulating a truth maker that makes the proposition or the statement true. So this more of a deflationary count of semantics, right? So semantics can be understood in a deflationary way. Why is snow is white true? The answer can be understood by physics, and that is all. No need to ask what makes it true. There is no metaphysics needed. So in this example, we are given a statement, snow is white, is true. And the temptation is to ask, well, why is this statement, this linguistic entity called a sentence, true? The natural answer would be that, well, it's snow. And there's something about the nature of the snow that this whiteness is kind of automatic. So that's why the string is true. But according to the author, it's not okay to go from snow is white is true to there being a truth maker that makes the statement true. So This is why the author says that. This is why the author says that there is really no need to ask what makes it true. You know, there is no metaphysics needed. Now, so let's go over this example again. So we given the statement water is H2O. It's true. Okay. So then we ask a question. What makes it true that water is H2O? And then, but this same statement can be rephrased as, why is it the case that water is H2O? And then we can be rephrased as, why water is H2O? And according to the author, there is no need to talk about truth makers because this is strictly a scientific question. But there are problems with this, way of thinking, right? Because when you say that there is no need for truth makers, and that the reason why water is H2O the question can be answered by science, but isn't science talking about water in this case? That isn't science telling us something about the nature of water, that water is H2O? But if that's the case, then water is the truth maker that makes this statement true. So there is problems with or at least I find problems with the author's characterization. This rephrasing can do away with ontological commitment, or that you can do away with the do away with the world or non-linguistic world the author talks about. Okay. And with the representation and truth maker gone, so representation, remember, is the kind of like the correspondence theory of truth, right? Or the proto theory of language, where, for thinking back at our matching game, on the left side of the ledger you have statements, and on the right side you have facts, right? So if the statements are true, then there is a mapping between the true statements and facts, right? So that's the representation theory, right? And the truth maker would be the facts, right, on the right side of the ledger that makes the proposition or the sentences or the statements true. With this notion of representation and truth maker gone, there is no pressure to inquire about the natural material world or other kind of world, right? So if we don't talk about truth maker, if we don't talk about what makes a proposition true, these second order questions, there's no that we would solve the problem according to the author. The question. So let's try this out. Like let's look at an example, right? We're given the question, what makes it true that causing unnecessary suffering is wrong? Now, when we are first confronted with a question like this, we first think that, well, it's probably true. But the question is, what makes it true? The question seems to be asking for truth makers, right? As such, it is a second order question. And according to the author, this is not allowed. We're not supposed to ask the second order question of, well, what makes this statement true from the claim that this statement is true, right? So the intuition is that this statement is true, and then the second intuition is natural to ask, well, what makes this statement true? And the third thing is, like, once we ask, well, what makes it true, is very tempting to posit that there's a truth maker, namely in this case would be a moral fact that makes this statement true. Well, according to the author, this is not allowed. Right. Okay. Let's take a look at another example, but in this example is kind of different from the previous example. Squishy is true if and only if snow is white. This is, I'm sorry, I don't know how you pronounce this. Squishy is true if only if snow is white. It seems like this example is that on the left hand side is German. Is true if only if you have some sort of English words here. So according to the author, this is really an example between translation between Germans and English. We are really not talking about word-world semantic relationship. We're not talking about the relationship between the word, the term or the word snow and the property of snow, which is the whiteness of the snow. We are really just translating between Germans and in English. There's no need to posit this word world semantic relationship where a word designate an object or thing in the world, and that is whiteness is a property of that thing, you know. So according to the author, because this is translation between German and English, there's really no need to invoke second order inquiry here. So this second order inquiry here is very much what the author means to be the strong sense of the semantics, or semantics in the strong sense, right? Which is the idea that that words or terms or sentences can tell us something about the non-linguistic world or the world out there, right? So in this strong sense of semantics, semantics is grounded in metaphysics, right? It's grounded by metaphysics. And it's fundamentally non-deflationary semantics, right? Because deflation, non-deflationary is the opposite of deflationary, right? It's like you are postulating entities in the non-linguistic world to explain certain sentences or terms in your language. So this is a non-deflationary semantics, right? Or non-deflationary way of looking at semantics, where there is a genuine anchor. That anchor is a non-linguistic world, right? So semantic notions like sentences, terms, tell us something about the non-linguistic world. So, like if I say the cat is on the mat, there's that the word that's a sentence that I just said, right? My sentence, the cat is on the mat. What makes this statement true, the sentence true, is that there is indeed a cat in the world and is on the mat. And these are non-linguistic aspects of the world. What we rely on, that there being a cat, there is a mat, and that there's a state of affair in which the cat is on the mat. And it's that non-linguistic world that really anchors the statement and makes that statement true, right? So that's what it means. So the author is saying that we should, like, not do that. Like, we should keep a lid on the strong sense of semantics. So we need to keep a lid on the strong sense of semantics here. And the author provides a couple of what he called allies, right? The giant minimalists, right? And he gives some examples of minimalists like Ramsey, Wittgenstein, and Quine. According to the author, they open up a pluralism about roles and functions of linguistic commitments. Maybe he's I'm guessing that this is kind of very much aligned with like Carnap's idea of linguistic pluralism, where there are different linguistic frameworks and each framework has kind of a function or or presupposition for the users of that language, and that there's no need to talk about this non-linguistic world that grounds our statements, or is the truth maker that makes our statement true. But is this, we can do away with that and rely on maybe Wittgenstein's notion of a language game, where we conceive of language and what we mean as the use of what we're trying to get at or what we try to do in the world. And according to the author, and this is claimed without much support in my perspective, is that it's according to the author that this supports semantic deflationism. I'm kind of in disagreement with this. I don't think the article so far kind of tell us that much about any good arguments for semantic deflationism, at least by the author himself.